I need to tell someone what happened. What I did. What I destroyed because I thought I was so clever, so special, so entitled to more than what I had. The affair started 6 months before that Thanksgiving. 6 months before my world imploded in front of 23 family members over turkey and stuffing. His name was Marcus. He was my husband Jake's business partner. Charming, successful, always smelling like expensive cologne and ambition. We'd met dozens of times at company events, always with Jake right there, always appropriate. Until the night Jake got food poisoning and couldn't make the investor dinner. Just go without me, Jake said, pale and miserable. Marcus needs you there. You know how to work a room. I should have said no. Instead, I wore the black dress. The one that made me feel powerful. The one I bought specifically because Jake's eyes went wide when he saw it. Marcus picked me up. We arrived at the restaurant. The investors canceled at the last minute. Well, Marcus said, that dangerous smile playing at his lips, shame to waste the reservation. We had dinner. Just the two of us. Wine flowed. Conversation sparkled. He listened to me talk about my photography dreams, the ones I'd set aside when Jake and I got married young. He made me feel seen in a way I hadn't felt in years. When he drove me home, his hand brushed mine on the gear shift. I didn't pull away. We shouldn't, I whispered, even as I leaned closer. I know, he said, and kissed me anyway. It happened in his car, parked 2 blocks from my house. Quick, frantic, the kind of mistake you can't take back. When it was over, I felt sick. Electrified. Terrified. Alive. This can't happen again, I told him. It happened again. And again. And again. I told myself I deserved this. Jake had gotten comfortable. He worked long hours. He forgot our anniversary twice. He didn't make me feel like Marcus did, like I was the only woman in the world who mattered. I was so stupid. So breathtakingly, unforgivably stupid. Jake's mother, Patricia, started acting strange around September. She'd always been kind to me, welcoming me into the family with open arms when Jake and I started dating in college. But suddenly she was watching me at family dinners, studying my face when she thought I wasn't looking, asking odd questions about my childhood, my adoption, the birthmark on my left shoulder blade that I usually kept covered. I thought she suspected the affair. I became paranoid, careful. Marcus and I started meeting at hotels farther from home. I deleted messages obsessively. I created elaborate lies about photography classes and coffee dates with friends who'd moved away years ago. What I didn't know was that Patricia was drowning in a secret so much bigger than mine. The Thanksgiving dinner was at Patricia and Robert's house, the same house where we'd celebrated every major holiday for the 5 years Jake and I had been married. Jake's 2 sisters were there with their husbands and kids. His brother brought his new girlfriend. Aunts, uncles, cousins, the whole sprawling family that had embraced me so completely I'd almost forgotten I was adopted, that somewhere out there was a birth mother who'd given me up. Patricia started drinking early. By the time we sat down for dinner, she was on her 3rd glass of wine, her movements loose, her eyes bright and desperate. A toast, Robert said, standing at the head of the table. To family. To the blessings we share. To another year together. Patricia stood too, swaying slightly. To family, she repeated, her voice cracking. To the lies we tell to keep them. The table went quiet. Jake's hand found mine under the table, squeezing gently. He thought his mother was just drunk, being dramatic. Mom? Jake's older sister, Claire, said carefully. Maybe you should sit down. I should have told the truth, Patricia said, staring directly at me. Years ago. The day Jake brought you home and you took off your jacket and I saw that birthmark. The one shaped like a crescent moon. The one I stared at for 3 days in the hospital before they took you away. My heart stopped. The room tilted. What are you talking about? I heard myself ask, but my voice sounded far away. I was 16, Patricia said, tears streaming down her face now. 16 and pregnant, and my parents sent me away. I gave birth to a baby girl on March 14, 1993. She had a birthmark on her left shoulder blade. A perfect crescent moon. They let me hold her for 3 days before the adoption was finalized. I never forgot that mark. Never forgot her face. March 14, 1993. My birthday. The crescent moon birthmark. The one I've been born with, the one mentioned in my adoption papers. No, I whispered. No, that's not. That can't be. But Patricia was still talking, the words pouring out like she'd been holding them back for years. I met Robert 2 years later. We fell in love. Got married. Had Jake and Claire and Michael. Built a life. but I never forgot the baby I gave up. And then one day, my son brings home this beautiful girl from college, and she takes off her jacket, and I see that mark, and I know. Jake's chair scraped back. You're saying? He looked at me, then at his mother, then back at me. His face was white. You're saying we're half-siblings, Patricia sobbed. You married your half-sister. And I never told you. I couldn't. I thought if I just stayed quiet, if I just loved you both, it would be okay. But it's not okay. It's never been okay. The room exploded. Claire was screaming. Robert looked like he might have a heart attack. The kids started crying, confused by the chaos. Jake's uncle was demanding genetic tests. Someone dropped a dish and it shattered. And I just sat there, frozen, thinking about Marcus. Thinking about the affair I'd been having for 6 months. Thinking about the baby I'd been planning to tell Jake about next week. The positive pregnancy test hidden in my purse. The baby that might not even be Jake's. The baby that, if it was Jake's, would be the product of an incestuous relationship I'd been in for 5 years without knowing. Jake stood up so fast his chair fell over. He looked at me with such betrayal, such horror, that I wanted to die right there. Tell me it's not true, he said. Tell me she's lying. Tell me you're not. That we didn't. But I couldn't tell him that. Because I knew Patricia was telling the truth. I could feel it in my bones, in the way certain features of my face matched hers, in the way I'd always felt at home with his family in a way that went beyond marriage. Jake, I started, but he was already backing away. Don't, he said. Don't talk to me. Don't come near me. I can't. I can't even look at you. He ran. Literally ran out of the house, car keys in hand. I heard his truck peel out of the driveway. And then everyone was looking at me. All those people who'd welcomed me as family. All those people who now knew the truth. Claire spoke first, her voice like ice. Get out. I didn't know, I said desperately. You have to believe me, I didn't know. Patricia never said anything. How was I supposed to? Get out, Claire screamed. Get out of this house. Get out of our family. You slept with your brother. You married your brother. Get out. I ran. Grabbed my purse and coat and ran to my car, leaving behind my phone that I'd set on the table, my dignity, my marriage, everything. I drove to a hotel, checked in under my maiden name, sat on the bed and stared at the wall. And then I threw up. Because of the baby. The baby I was carrying. The baby that belonged to either my husband, my half-brother, or to his business partner, the man I'd been betraying him with for half a year. My phone was back at the house. I had no way to call Marcus. No way to explain. No way to do anything but sit in that hotel room and realize that every single choice I'd made had led to this moment. The affair had seemed like my biggest secret. My worst betrayal. Now it was just another layer of horror in a situation too twisted to comprehend. I was pregnant. My husband was my half-brother. His mother was my mother. I'd been sleeping with his business partner. And in less than 2 hours, everyone would know. The family would talk. Word would spread. Jake would tell someone. And that someone would tell someone else, and soon everyone in our social circle would know what we'd done. What I'd done. Because even though Patricia was the one who'd stayed silent, even though she was the one who'd let this happen, I was the one who'd cheated. I was the one who destroyed what was already broken beyond repair. I was the one carrying a baby I couldn't keep and couldn't bear to lose. And the worst part, the part that made me hate myself most, was that even in the middle of this nightmare, part of me was relieved. Relieved that the marriage was over. Relieved that I had an excuse to leave, to run, to burn it all down without having to admit the real reason. I'd wanted out. And now I had it. Just not the way I'd ever imagined. I found out the night that Jake drove his truck into a tree. He survived, barely. They said he was going 90 on a residential street. They said it was a miracle he lived. I never told him about the baby. About Marcus. About any of it. Because how do you confess to cheating on someone when you've just discovered you've been committing incest for 5 years? How do you say I betrayed you when genetics already did it first? Jake was in the hospital for 3 weeks. Broken ribs, punctured lung, compound fracture in his left leg. Internal bleeding they had to operate on twice. I wasn't allowed to visit. Claire made sure of that. She showed up at my hotel on day 2 with my phone, a suitcase of my clothes, and a restraining order. My brother almost died because of you, she said, standing in the doorway like an avenging angel. Because of what you are. What you did to him. I didn't know, I said again. The only defense I had. The weakest defense in the world. My mother didn't know either. Not for sure. She suspected, But she wasn't certain until she had your adoption records tracked down. The agency that placed you. It all matched. And instead of telling anyone, instead of stopping the wedding, she just watched. Watched you two get married. Watched you play house. Watched her son fall in love with his own sister. Claire's voice cracked on the last word. She composed herself with visible effort. But you, she continued, you don't get to play victim. You don't get to act like this just happened to you. Because I know. Marcus called the house looking for you. He was worried. Said you hadn't answered his messages in 2 days. The blood drained from my face. That's right, Claire said, her smile cold and terrible. Your husband's business partner. My brother's best friend since college. The man who's been coming to our family dinners for years. That's who you were sleeping with. While you were married to Jake. While you were playing the perfect wife. Claire. How long? She demanded. How long were you cheating on him? I couldn't speak. Couldn't defend myself. Because there was no defense. It doesn't matter, Claire said finally. Jake doesn't know. Yet. He's too destroyed by the other thing to even process anything else. But I know. And when the time is right, when he's strong enough, I'm going to tell him. I'm going to make sure he knows that the woman he loved, the woman he thought was his soulmate, was betraying him long before Mom dropped her bomb. She left the restraining order on the hotel dresser and walked out. I held it together until the door closed. Then I sobbed so hard I made myself sick. The pregnancy test in my purse seemed to pulse with accusation. I'd taken 3 more since Thanksgiving. All positive. All damning. I needed to know whose baby it was. Jake's or Marcus's. I needed to know if I was carrying the product of an affair or the product of accidental incest. Both options made me want to die. I called Marcus that night. He answered on the first ring. Thank God, he breathed. I've been going crazy. What happened? Why weren't you answering? Jake's not returning calls either, and the office is saying he's on medical leave. We need to meet, I interrupted. Now. Tonight. We met at a diner 40 minutes outside town. Somewhere no one would recognize us. He looked concerned, worried, the way someone looks when they think their secret is about to be exposed but they're not sure how bad it is yet. I told him everything. Patricia's confession. The adoption records. The genetic connection. Jake's accident. All of it except the pregnancy. I couldn't bring myself to say that part out loud yet. Marcus went gray. Actually gray, like the blood had left his face entirely. Jesus, he whispered. Jesus Christ. That's insane. That's actually insane. I know. Does Jake know? About us? No. But his sister does. She's going to tell him. Marcus was quiet for a long time. Then, we need to end this. Obviously. We can't. I can't be part of this anymore. This is too big. Too complicated. I'm pregnant, I said. The words just came out. Flat. Matter of fact. Like I was commenting on the weather. Marcus stared at me. What? I'm pregnant. About 8 weeks. And I don't know if it's yours or Jake's. He stood up so fast he knocked over his water glass. It spread across the table, dripping onto the floor. Neither of us moved to clean it up. You need to get rid of it, he said. What? You need to. You need to terminate. End it. Whatever it is, whoever it belongs to, you can't have it. If it's Jake's, it's... God, I can't even say it. And if it's mine, it's a constant reminder of what we did. What I did. To my best friend. I'm not getting rid of it, I heard myself say. And I meant it. Despite everything, despite the horror and the shame and the uncertainty, I couldn't. This baby was the only thing in my life that wasn't tainted by lies. It was mine. Just mine. Then you're on your own, Marcus said. I can't do this. I won't. I'll deny everything if anyone asks. And if that baby is mine, I'll demand a paternity test and fight you for custody. I'm not letting you ruin my life any more than you already have. He left. Walked out of that diner and out of my life like I was contaminated. Maybe I was. I drove back to the hotel and made the call I'd been dreading. To the adoption agency. To get my records. To confirm what Patricia had told everyone. They sent them within a week. Official documents. Birth certificates. Patricia Hayes, age 16, gave birth to a daughter on March 14, 1993. Baby given up for adoption through St. Catherine's Services. Adoptive parents, Richard and Susan Morrison. My parents. The people who raised me. The people who died in a car accident when I was 22, right before I met Jake. If they'd lived, would they have recognized Patricia? Would they have stopped the relationship before it got too far? Would any of this have happened? I called my adoptive mother's sister, Aunt Linda, the only family I had left besides the one I just lost. I know you heard, I said when she answered. Her silence confirmed it. The whole town knows, Linda said finally. It's all anyone's talking about. Patricia. Jake. You. What happened? Did Mom and Dad know? I asked. Did they know who my birth mother was? No. It was a closed adoption. They only knew she was young. A teenager. They never tried to find her. Your mother wanted to respect the birth mother's privacy. Of course she did. My adoptive mother had been kind like that. Thoughtful. The kind of person who would have been devastated by what I'd become. There's something else, Linda said, her voice careful. About Patricia. About why she gave you up. My stomach dropped. What? She wasn't just young. She was. Her father. Your grandfather. He's the one who got her pregnant. It wasn't consensual. She was being abused. That's why her parents sent her away. That's why she gave you up. She couldn't look at you without seeing him. The hotel room spun. I gripped the phone so hard it hurt. So Jake and I said slowly, we're not just half-siblings. The genetics are more complicated than that, Linda said gently. You should talk to a doctor. Get the full picture. But yes. It's very bad, honey. I hung up. Ran to the bathroom. Threw up until there was nothing left. The baby inside me had a family tree that didn't branch. It was a genetic nightmare no matter who the father was. Jake, my half-brother who was also the product of Patricia's later, healthy relationship. Or Marcus, an outsider who'd betrayed his best friend for 6 months of selfish pleasure. I had to know. Had to be sure. I called my doctor. Made an appointment for prenatal genetic testing. The kind that could determine paternity with just a blood draw. I called Jake's hospital room from a burner phone, knowing he wouldn't answer if he saw my real number. A nurse picked up. I need you to tell him something, I said. Tell him I'm getting a paternity test. Tell him I need his DNA. For the baby. Ma'am, I can't. Tell him his sister can bring a cheek swab if he won't see me. Tell him it's important. Tell him I need to know. I hung up before she could refuse. 2 days later, Claire showed up at my hotel again. This time with a small envelope. He wants you to know he hates you, she said, handing it over. He wants you to know that even if this baby is his, he'll never acknowledge it. Never claim it. Never be part of its life. Okay, I whispered, and he wants you to know that Marcus confessed. Told him everything. Every detail. Every time. Every place. Jake knows you were cheating on him for 6 months. He knows you're a liar and a cheat and that he wasted 5 years of his life on you. She looked at me with such contempt that I felt it like a physical blow. You destroyed him, she said. You destroyed all of us. I hope you know that. I hope you think about it every single day for the rest of your miserable life. She left. I opened the envelope. Inside was Jake's cheek swab and a single note in his handwriting. I loved you more than anything in this world. That was my mistake. The paternity test took 2 weeks. 2 weeks of living in hotel rooms and cheap apartments, moving every few days because I was terrified someone would find me. 2 weeks of watching my bank account drain. 2 weeks of ignoring calls from my few remaining friends, people who'd seen the news and wanted to know if it was true. 2 weeks of sitting alone with my growing belly and my mountain of guilt. The results came back on a Tuesday. I opened the envelope with shaking hands. Marcus was the father. Not Jake. Marcus. I should have felt relieved. I should have felt grateful that at least the baby wasn't the product of incest, wasn't genetically doomed by my ignorance and Patricia's silence. Instead, I felt hollow. Because this baby was the product of betrayal. Of selfishness. Of 6 months of lies and stolen moments and thinking I deserved more than what I had. This baby would grow up knowing their father wanted nothing to do with them. That their father had demanded I get rid of them. That I'd destroyed multiple families for a fantasy that lasted 6 months. I called Marcus with the results. He answered, his voice wary. It's yours, I said. Silence. I'm keeping it, I continued. You don't have to be involved. I don't want your money. I don't want anything from you. I just thought you should know. Good, he said. Because I already told my wife. My heart stopped. What? I told her everything. The affair. You. The baby. I came clean. And she's filing for divorce. So congratulations. You didn't just destroy one marriage. You destroyed 2. He hung up. I sat in my apartment and stared at the test results until the words blurred together. Jake's business was failing. I heard through the grapevine that Marcus had pulled out, started his own company, that the partnership was dissolved, that Jake was drowning in debt and legal fees and trying to rebuild his life while still recovering from injuries that would never fully heal. Patricia was in therapy. Robert had moved out. The family was fractured beyond repair. Jake's nieces and nephews would grow up knowing their uncle had married his sister, that their grandmother had kept a secret that destroyed everything. And it was all my fault. Not Patricia's. Mine, because I'd made the choice. I'd kissed Marcus back in that car. I'd continued the affair. I'd lied and snuck around and told myself I deserved it. I'd planted the bomb that Patricia's confession had detonated. The pregnancy progressed. I moved 3 more times, chasing cheaper rent and anonymity. I worked remotely, freelance photography gigs that barely paid enough to survive. I avoided social media. I changed my phone number. I became a ghost. At 24 weeks, I felt the baby kick for the first time. A flutter, like butterfly wings. I cried. Because this baby deserved better. Deserved a mother who hadn't destroyed everything she touched. Deserved a father who wanted them. Deserved a family that wasn't built on ashes and shame. And I couldn't give them any of that. The isolation was crushing. Days would pass without speaking to another human being. I'd go to prenatal appointments alone. Sit in waiting rooms surrounded by glowing couples, excited families, people who had every reason to celebrate. I had nothing. No one. I'd burned every bridge. Salted the earth. Made myself into exactly the kind of person I'd always sworn I'd never become. My mother, my adoptive mother, the woman who raised me, she would have been so disappointed. She taught me about loyalty, about integrity, about taking responsibility for your mistakes. I'd learned nothing. One night, 7 months pregnant and unable to sleep, I finally let myself scroll through social media. Just to see. Just to know. Jake had a new profile picture. Him with a woman I didn't recognize. Smiling. Genuinely smiling. The caption read, "New beginnings." Good. He deserved that. Deserved to move on. To find someone who wasn't me. Someone who wouldn't ruin him. Marcus's wife had posted a photo of her own. At a beach somewhere tropical. "Healing looks like freedom," the caption said. Good for her too. I was the only one who wasn't healing. The only one who couldn't move forward. Because I was still living in the wreckage. Still pregnant with the evidence. Still facing the consequences every single day. The baby kicked again. Stronger this time. "I'm sorry," I whispered to my belly. "I'm so sorry for who I am. For what I did. For what you're inheriting." The baby kicked once more, as if answering. I put my phone away and stared at the ceiling until dawn, wondering how someone could destroy so much and still be allowed to keep breathing. Claire was right. I think about it every day. Every single day. And it's still not enough punishment for what I've done. I gave birth on a Tuesday in July. 31 hours of labor. Alone. No partner, no family, no friend holding my hand. Just me and a rotation of nurses who'd read my chart and knew enough to ask no questions. A girl. 7 pounds, 4 ounces. Perfect in every way except the circumstances of her existence. They asked me what name I wanted on the birth certificate. I almost said Emma. That was the name Jake and I had chosen years ago, back when we were happy. Back when we'd talk about hypothetical children and our hypothetical future. Back when everything was possible and nothing was ruined. Lily, I said instead. Lily Morrison. My maiden name. The only thing I had left that wasn't tainted. The nurse wrote it down without comment. They brought her to me wrapped in a pink blanket. She had dark hair, Marcus's nose, my eyes. A combination of 2 people who'd made the worst possible choices. "Hi," I whispered to her. "I'm your mom. And I'm so sorry." She looked at me with those unfocused newborn eyes, and I felt something crack open in my chest. Love, yes. But also terror. Because how was I supposed to raise her? How was I supposed to teach her about integrity and honesty and making good choices when I'd failed at all of those things so spectacularly? The hospital social worker came by on day 2. Young, kind, clipboard in hand. "I wanted to check in," she said gently. "See how you're doing. If you need any resources. Support groups. Anything." "I'm fine," I lied. She glanced at my chart. At the blank space where partner information should be. At my address, a cheap apartment in the bad part of town. "We have programs," she offered. "For single mothers. Assistance with childcare, job training, counseling." I said I'm fine. She left her card on the table beside my bed. I threw it away as soon as she left. I took Lily home to my one-bedroom apartment on day 3. Set up the second-hand crib I'd bought from Craigslist. Stared at the walls I'd painted myself, the furniture I'd assembled alone, the life I'd cobbled together from the ruins of everything I'd destroyed. This was it. This was my reality now. No going back. No do-overs. Just me and a baby girl and the crushing weight of consequences. The first month was survival. Feeding, changing, sleeping in 20-minute increments. Lily cried constantly, like she knew something was wrong with the world she'd been born into. I walked her around the apartment at 3 a.m., bouncing and shushing, wondering how other mothers made this look easy. But they had help. Partners. Family. Support systems. I had nothing. My freelance work dried up. Can't take photos when you're covered in spit up and running on 2 hours of sleep. Can't meet with clients when you have no one to watch your baby. Can't build a career when you're barely surviving. The money ran out by month 2. I applied for assistance. Filled out the forms that asked questions I couldn't answer honestly. Father's information? Unknown. Family support? None. Employment history? Complicated. The caseworker who processed my application looked at me with poorly concealed judgment. She knew. Maybe not the details, but enough. Enough to see what I was, a cautionary tale. A woman who'd made bad choices and was now paying the price. You'll receive a determination letter in 4 to 6 weeks, she said, handing me a pamphlet about job training programs. 4 to 6 weeks. Meanwhile, I had $37 in my bank account and a baby who needed formula. I swallowed my pride and called Aunt Linda. I need help, I said when she answered. No preamble. No small talk. Silence. Then, I can't. I'm sorry, but I can't. Please. I have a baby. I have no money. I just need. My daughter asked me not to help you, Linda interrupted. She follows you on social media. She knows about the affair. About Marcus. About everything. And she told me that if I give you money, if I enable you, she'll cut me off from her kids. From my grandchildren. I'm your niece, I said desperately. Doesn't that mean anything? You are my sister's daughter, Linda said, her voice breaking. Were? Past tense. The niece I knew wouldn't have done what you did. Wouldn't have destroyed so many lives. I'm sorry. I really am. But I can't help you. She hung up. I sat on the floor of my apartment and cried until Lily's screaming forced me to pull myself together. I got a job at a grocery store. Night shift stocking shelves. Minimum wage. No benefits. I brought Lily with me in a carrier on my chest because I couldn't afford childcare. The manager looked the other way because he was short-staffed and desperate. I worked 6 nights a week. Slept during the day when Lily slept. Stopped eating anything that wasn't the cheapest option at the store. Lost 30 pounds in 2 months. Started looking like a ghost of myself. One night in October, almost a year after the Thanksgiving, a woman came through my aisle. Mid-50s, well-dressed, vaguely familiar. She stopped when she saw me. Really saw me. Her eyes went wide. You're her, she said. You're the girl from the news. The one who married her brother. My blood turned to ice. I don't know what you're talking about, I said, continuing to stock cans of soup with shaking hands. Yes, you do. I remember. It was everywhere. That poor family. What you did to them. She pulled out her phone. I'm going to take a picture. Post it online. Let people know where you are. What you're doing now. Please, I whispered. Please don't. But she was already snapping photos. Me in my stained work vest. Lily asleep in a carrier. The name tag that said my real name. She posted it before I could finish my shift. By morning, it had gone viral locally. Comments poured in. People I'd gone to high school with. Former friends. Strangers who just wanted to pile on. Can't believe she's still in town. That poor baby. Growing up with a mother like that. She should have given it up for adoption. Like she was. Karma. I'd die of shame if I were her. My manager called me into his office at the end of my shift. I'm sorry, he said, not meeting my eyes. But I'm getting calls. Complaints. People saying they won't shop here if you're working. I have to let you go. Please, I begged. I need this job. I have a baby. I'll work different hours. I'll stay in the back. I'm sorry, he repeated. Your final check will be mailed. I walked out into the cold October morning with Lily in my arms and nowhere to go. The eviction notice came a week later. I'd missed 2 months of rent. The landlord wanted me out in 30 days. I packed what little we had into my car. Clothes, diapers, the few toys I'd managed to buy for Lily. Left behind the furniture, the crib, Everything I couldn't fit. We lived in my car for 3 weeks. Parking in different lots every night to avoid police. Using gas station bathrooms to wash Lily in the sink. Feeding her formula mixed with water from public fountains. Keeping her warm with every blanket I owned. She got sick. A fever that spiked to 103. I drove to the emergency room in a panic, terrified they'd take her from me, that someone would call child services and declare me unfit. The doctor who examined her was cold, professional. She has an ear infection. Likely from poor hygiene. Are you housed? I couldn't answer. Just cried. They gave me antibiotics I couldn't pay for. A social worker appeared with more forms. More questions I couldn't answer honestly. We can help you, she said gently. But you have to be honest with us. Are you living in your car? I nodded. And the father? Is he in the picture? No. Family support? None. She made notes. Sympathetic but concerned. I'm going to connect you with some resources. A shelter that takes mothers and children. It's temporary, but it's a start. You'll need to follow certain rules. No drugs, no alcohol, mandatory job searching, parenting classes. Whatever it takes, I said. The shelter was in the worst part of the city. 20 women and their children packed into a converted warehouse. Bunk beds, communal bathrooms, a kitchen where we took turns cooking meals from donated food. But it was warm. It was safe. It was better than my car. I got us a bunk in the corner. Hung a sheet for privacy. Tried to make it feel like home even though it was anything but. The other women were kind, mostly. Single mothers escaping abuse, addiction, poverty. Women who'd made bad choices or had bad choices made for them. We didn't talk much about our pasts. Just focused on survival. But one woman recognized me. Carla, mid-30s, 3 kids under 5. You're the one, she said quietly one night while we were washing dishes. From the news. The incest thing. I froze. Hey, she said quickly. I'm not judging. We've all got our shit. I'm just saying, I know. And it's okay. You're here now. You're trying. That matters. It was the kindest thing anyone had said to me in months. I started the parenting classes. Sat in a circle with other mothers and learned about attachment, discipline, early childhood development. Things I should have known. Things I'd been too busy destroying my life to learn. The instructor was patient, warm. She never asked about our situations. Just taught us how to be better than we'd been. I got a new job. Cleaning offices at night. Another place where I could bring Lily, strap her to my chest while I vacuumed and emptied trash cans. The pay was terrible but it was something. I saved every penny. Bought diapers at the dollar store. Ate 1 meal a day so Lily could have formula. Stopped looking in mirrors because I couldn't stand what I saw. Months passed. Lily grew. Started crawling, then walking. Said mama for the first time in that shelter, in that bunk bed, in the ruins of everything I'd destroyed. I cried when she said it. Because I didn't deserve that word. Didn't deserve her love. Didn't deserve anything except the consequences I was living. But she gave it to me anyway. On Lily's first birthday, I bought her a cupcake from the grocery store. $1. Chocolate with pink frosting. We celebrated alone in our bunk, me singing happy birthday while she smashed frosting into her face and laughed. It was the happiest I'd been in a year. It was also the loneliest. Because I thought about Jake. About the birthday parties he'd have, the family he'd build without me. About Marcus and his eventual new wife, the legitimate children he'd have who wouldn't be secrets or mistakes. About Patricia, living with the knowledge that her secret had destroyed 2 generations. About all the people whose lives I'd ruined because I'd thought I deserved more than what I had. I checked social media one last time that night. A mistake, but I couldn't help it. Jake's profile showed him at a birthday party. Not his own. A little boy's 2nd birthday. Jake was holding him, smiling, surrounded by family I didn't recognize. The caption read, "My nephew's big day. Love this kid." He'd moved on. Built a new life. Found new family. Healed in ways I never would. I deleted my social media that night. All of it. Every account. Every connection to who I used to be. That person was dead anyway. The woman in the shelter raising a baby alone. That was who I was now. That was who I'd be forever. No redemption arc. No happy ending. No moment where everyone forgave me and welcomed me back. Just survival. Just consequences. Just the daily reminder that some choices can't be undone. Lily fell asleep in my arms that night, chocolate still smeared on her cheek. She was innocent. Perfect. Everything I wasn't. And I knew, with complete certainty, that I'd spend the rest of my life trying to be good enough for her. Trying and failing. Because you can't undo the damage. Can't erase the pain. Can't make it right when you've broken something so fundamentally that even the pieces have pieces. The shelter had a maximum stay of 6 months. My time was almost up. After that, I didn't know. Another shelter. Maybe the car again. Maybe something worse. But I'd keep going. For Lily. Only for Lily. Because she was the only innocent person in this entire nightmare. And she deserved better than me. They say children pay for their parents' sins. Lily will spend her whole life paying for mine. No grandmother to teach her to bake. No grandfather to spoil her. No extended family for holidays. No father who claims her. Just me. The woman who destroyed everything she touched before she was born. And when she's old enough to understand, when she asks why we're alone, why we have nothing, why people look at us with pity and contempt, I'll have to tell her the truth. That her mother thought she deserved more than what she had. And in reaching for it, lost everything worth having.